Hello, hello. All right, our usual here. Hear me, see me, not quite touch me. Coming to you, of course, from Queen City, my friends. Radio City. But, you know, I use video too. You all hearing the dulcet tones of my voice? All I need is a yes, I hear you. Or no, Cliff. Where the hell are you? Clear and loud. Thank you. Beginning. Holy moly. Does anybody really say holy moly anymore? We are here. We're live. Good to see you all. Saw a few of you in Tony's chat, which was fun. Saw some of you maybe on with Hal Sparks yesterday. That was lots of fun. Hal was actually sitting right here, and we were chatting. Probably the best chat we've ever had. I swear the delays that go on sometimes on the show. It is so much, modern technology is a wonderful thing, even though I screw all of it up. But being next to somebody and like seeing, being able to read sort of body signals and other stuff, helpful in conversations. You may have noticed that, in your lives with family and friends. On the phone, not as easy. If you're using various codes from World War II, even more difficult. I'm so glad you guys are here. It is Christmas Eve day. It is some combo of those things. So it's very kind of you to be here, particularly if you are of the Christian faith. And if you are, Merry Christmas. But look, today starts Hanukkah too, doesn't it? It's like a barrage of religion. So, also happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. I don't know when that is. I apologize, but I know it's coming. Happy New Year. Happy Valentine's Day. Okay, we'll stop there. So you can hear me. We're good. I think we'll get right into Cliff's note, and because we're going to be having the great Malcolm Nance join us. We're going to talk about some resistance methods and some things going on around the world. So I want to talk to you today about Republicans in disarray. Woo! I know we never talk about that. It's always Democrats in disarray because the New York Times really enjoys talking about that. Not that most of the time what they're talking about is accurate. It is normal political disagreement, infighting. These things happen. Whereas the Republicans now are pretty constantly in civil war all the time, fighting each other, right? Trump and Mitch are fighting each other. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Loomer are fighting each other, probably over Trump because he's so hot. He's so cute. Did he pass a note in study hall about me? And of course, we also have Elon Musk. He's in a huge fight with Charisma. And I think Charisma has won and defeated him and left him without. But right now, you've got a number of Republicans speaking out. We saw what happened when Elon Musk sunk originally the House bill from Mike Johnson, and that sent Chip Roy, if you know that bald, crazy mofo, that sent him into he exploded on the floor and started screaming at his own party about how they were responsible for $5 trillion more in debt. And everybody's like, you're not supposed to tell anybody the truth, Chip. You're supposed to hide that. But Chip was just getting started, and he's like, these are Republicans, and you can't make excuses, and we're not paying for 110, billion of it. And he went on and insulted his own party. And I would say it was rather enjoyable to watch it. Big one, though, is Don Bacon. Don Bacon, folks, if you don't know who he is from Nebraska, that 2nd district that we often win in the presidential race. Is a swing seat. And he's been defeated before, but he's won most of the time. He's one of the last of the sort of old line Republicans left who is not MAGA. He has spoken out against MAGA numerous times, and I'm not giving him any medals or awards because he votes with them a lot of the time. But whenever you see like 6, Republicans voted against the rest of the caucus, or 12, he's pretty much always among that group. And he just decided to open up a can of whip arse on his own party, which I thought would be fun to share here. Over at the site Mediaite, if you're responsible with it, they had a whole write-up of what he had to say, went on TV, and made clear the Republican divisions, the fissures, if you will. Not a certain kind of fissures that I can't say out loud here or I'll get demonetized, but I'm getting that. Okay, so Bacon went on with, it's probably Fox, right? Let's see. Who do you go on with? News Nation. They're kind of conservative. I'm not sure what they are yet. but they definitely lean conservative. And he expressed optimism about the next Congress because of the Republicans leaving. Like, that's what he's happy about. He said that declaring the Republican Party would be a little bit better off with, quote, 3 of the most volatile people gone. That's right, 3 of the most volatile people. Who could he be talking about? First guy is a guy named Matt Gaetz. You may have heard of him. A report came out on him recently, and if I were to read any part of that report, I would get demonetized. I say demonetized a short that I did about it. I thought I would, I mean, again, there were just so many details in there that were hilarious. I mean, he's awful, and don't get me wrong. You have to find humor sometimes in certain things because he's so horrible. And I hope that he is prosecuted, although a lot of them are state charges, and I trust the state of Florida as much as, well, I trust my state of Ohio right now when it comes to being objective about going after Republicans, and that's a sad thing that we're all living through. But in any case, when it comes to Gaetz, I don't know. I don't know what I can say and get away with it. Let's just say there were ladies involved, and there was money involved, and there were, prescriptions involved that maybe he didn't get a prescription written for. And so clearly Gaetz fought with everybody. Everybody hated that dude. So he was one of the ones. But he's also talking about Stefanik, interestingly enough, and Mike Waltz, who I don't even know anything about. He's a congressman from Florida. Seems like a jerk. MAGA, or whatever. So he had to say, they had an ambitious agenda, but it may shrink now because they only have a 217 to 215 lead, and that's not even true. What's her face? I can't remember her first name, but Representative Spartz, the one from the Ukrainian American one from the Indianapolis area, has said she will not caucus with Republicans. And really, I'm not sure she's all there. She hasn't explained why in any coherent sentence, but I don't care. 216 to 215. Good luck, Mike. Mike Johnson's have to spend a lot less time monitoring his son's certain proclivities for various nighttime activities that involve the use of a lot of body lotion, because in the end, he's going to have to pay attention to keeping that 1 vote majority. And I think it's going to be kind of tough for him. I mean, they literally have 0. 0 is the margin. They cannot lose a vote at all. If I were Democrats, I might even go have a talk with Don Bacon or somebody like that and be like, come on. You seen the losers over there? I mean, treat it like a college party. Like, you see the dorks in the corner? Look at them. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene over there. Look at Lauren Boebert. I mean, you ever seen what she looks like when she's watching Beetlejuice? You want to go hang out with them? And then we would control the House, and it'd be hilarious. But we're basically going to control the House anyhow and be able to make any demands we want, because they're filled with all sorts of disordered personalities, people who hate each other, people who hate everybody else, people who hate the world for the fact they were born. So they're going to be fighting constantly. It's all they know how to do. Again, I've said before, I said it on Hal's show yesterday, MAGA is flypaper for the mentally unbalanced among us, for the angriest, the looniest. That's what it is in the end. That's why there are Democrats who went over there and Republicans who left, because it was no longer about policy. It was only about how much you hate, resent, are vicious towards, cruel, corrupt, incompetent. That's sort of the thing that brings everybody together. In any case, Mr. Bacon, Congressman Bacon, which makes me hungry saying his name, but in any case, he went on to say the Republicans would, quote, have to have a bipartisan spirit generally in the House and the Senate as a result of their small majority. That's a nice way of saying the Democrats own us in the House. So if Democrats can just keep it together. And thankfully, we've been seeing a lot of Democrats who've been uniting, who've been tough. I just did the other day one of these Cliff Notes. Damn it! Again, I got to say it the right. Cliff Notes on on the Maxwell Frost, who's just ripping Elon apart, which is inspiring others. I'm not saying everything's been perfect in terms of who they've chosen to, and I've spoken to this already, speak when it comes to certain chair or run certain chairmanships. It should not be on seniority. It should be on communications, talent, and all the things that actually make us win elections that we should win. But Republicans are going to be in a very, very bad situation in the House. And I like it. Schadenfreude, FAFO, which I talk about all the time now. The FAFO, I'm going to enjoy watching as they attack each other, as Mike Johnson literally has his life, his little fake biblical life ruined. It'll be like a nice hot tub. Be like when one of my larger cats, Steve, as he did the other morning, little baby kitty, but he's put on some weight, climbed on top of me, and I had this warm feeling on my chest, like a wonderful blanket was upon me. That's how I'll feel seeing Mike Johnson suffer, because Mike Johnson should suffer. And what's funny about this, of course, is Bacon did not say which three members, but clearly everybody knew he was talking about, which is cool too, because Elise Stefanik, as we all know, she seems like a horrid person. She was like a lot like Nancy Mace. They both faked moderates when they thought that was the thing to do, and Trump was going to end up paying for January 6th. And then as soon as he didn't, boom, they were the most MAGA of MAGA that you could MAGA inside of a MAGA when you're MAGA-ing. So she'll go to the UN, where I'm sure she'll get along wonderfully with everybody, and I'm sure they'll treat her. Remember how they treated Ivanka when she went, and she was like, "Well, I think it's important that we," and like all the prime ministers just sort of turned away. I have a feeling Stefanik will be like that, and that's pretty much the story. And we need to we'll take this and run with this. Democrats, you're smart. Widen these fissures, open up these fights, get in there, get these folks to self-destruct. It won't be hard. I mean, the gasoline, the kerosene is already all over the place. You just need to toss a match in and look around and see whose side, if you join, will cause the most damage. And kaboom, they're done. And that, my friends, has been Cliff's note for today. So how goes it, kids? That was a quick one, actually, for me. I usually do longer ones, but not this time, because it's so easy to talk about Republicans sucking. What are we all up to? Elise lies. Yes, from Free to Love, she does. As we go into this wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever season, I'll let you all know, because I should put more up on the community wall to keep you engaged, and so you know what's going on if you check that out, which I would say to you, keep checking it out, because I'm going to start putting up a content calendar there as I realize more kind of these rants at the beginning of the show will be separated and they become their own videos. Shorts that I do direct to camera will be going on. And then, as I told you, our mock-up for our I'm just doing some last-minute tweaks to our Patreon and YouTube membership levels. So please join. Do you want to do a phone call with me? And, you get to hang up on me if you don't like me. That's going to be one of those levels if you're interested. There's going to be the possibility of doing Zooms with a couple of us. There will be the possibilities of getting on to private. We'll do sort of a conversation for everybody here, as we do right now, like a live stream, and then we'll go and do a private one afterwards at Patreon with a couple of rock stars, a couple of actors you all know, a couple of sportsy types that I've been lucky enough to get to know because of all the political work I do. Not because I'm any cooler than anybody else, just because you meet people when you work in this business. It's kind of crazy. So please join. It'd be a wonderful thing today. It would be my Christmas Hanukkah present. We do both in my house, just so you know, because that's, we're big believers in both. So I definitely want, I would love it if we got some new memberships via YouTube, via Patreon. Any super chats going into the holidays would be wonderful, or super stickers. Super stickers are nice. I like stickers. Stickers are cool. Hey, look at that, Jim. Jim's on it, man. Or woman. There you go. You can go join the Patreon right there. It's gonna be totally bonkers. To post somebody putting up there the extra videos, bloopers. I want to see how much I mess up on these things. If you think I mess up on camera a lot with this microphone, and some behind the scenes stuff, you may like that too. Yesterday, I was having a fun talk with Hal behind the scenes here. And when I do that, whether either pre-show when we're not on air or I'm in the same studio in places with people, like whatever they allow me to share, that will be shared too. But again, I do have to make this all work through super chats, super stickers, through YouTube memberships and Patreon memberships and merch, fourth wall. But we are going to create, I have a couple ideas right now. Get ready to buy yourself some January 6th merch is what I'm telling you, because, oh my God, do I have an idea for the perfect t-shirt for that day. And we'll put it out as a video too. So it's coming, folks. It's on its way. Little programming note. I will actually be so I will be off for the Christmas. I hate the Christmas. I hate it. The freaking Christmas. Sorry, I can never think of Christmas again without Melania's little complaining voice. But off tomorrow. I'm going to decide. I'm not sure yet, but I think I'll probably be off the 26th and 27th also. And then we're going to be doing a little bit of traveling somewhere in there. So I will be off then, but I will get shorts and other things to share with you from my undisclosed location. And you'll have all sorts of wonderful stuff. All right, before our friend gets here, let's see what you got. Oh, Peter, out of the gate with a $50 super sticker. Peter, you are my dark lord. Really, thank you again. These are the things that make it possible, as I'm going to keep making it kind of clear to people. Like, an operation will be up and running soon enough, right? Where we'll grow enough and the YouTube revenue will grow, and the from various other places, Twitch and Instagram. And I would much rather make it from the corporate folks than from you. And so then you'll hear me making these asks a lot less. Thank you so much, Nikki Oliver, for the 99-cent super sticker. This is about keeping it all going right now, because we're big enough that we're starting to get revenue from YouTube, but there's also overhead. Like when a mic breaks and you suddenly have to buy a new one for a couple $100. It ain't nothing. So that kind of stuff happens. And that's why I want to just keep everything sort of cruising forward. And again, eventually, hopefully, when I'm making my money from all the corporate folks, I will ask nothing of you. But just in the interim period, next couple of months, it's probably just going to have to be this way. And I promise I will make it worth your while. What else we got? Nice, Peter, from Michael McAndrews. Thank you for doing that. And cool, Nikki from Michael McAndrews. And Michael, you have been quite the generous individual yourself. I almost feel like I need to point out how amazing you are every time for that amazing super chat you gave me here probably a week or 2 weeks ago. And then Hal yesterday on his show. You seriously, you do. What can I say? All of you, but like, this is what allows us to do this, because there aren't any left-wing billionaires giving us money. It'd be nice. I'm right here, George Soros. Mailbox is open. Send that check. Kelly Anderson has become a YouTube member. Thank you, Kelly. This is in the same spirit. This will be important. And Vicky Heathcote, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please let me know. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat or super sticker, super chat. That is incredible. I have a sort of Malcolm Nance sighting, but I don't see him. Your camera may be off, Malcolm, if you can hear me. Oh, look at that. That's this guy. He knows how to fight wars and upend intelligence services. You figured he'd get a camera together. Let's bring him in here.
I actually sat there listening to you, giggling, thinking, I'll just keep him hanging.
You just sat there giggling, thinking, I can kill him. Do you ever think that to yourself about people? Like, I know how to kill that guy. Does it ever cross your mind when somebody annoys you?
No, it's better to I found that it's far better to mock people than to wish harm on them. And if you do it right, karma itself will resolve the issue eventually.
Well, I think that's why you and I get along so well, because mockery is sort of one of my top go-tos. And it gets people on the right, or if you have to say extreme left or whatever, aspect, people that like to attack people like you and me. I consider myself a liberal, a center left Democrat in the tradition of FDR and JFK and people, of that nature. I'll say quickly, folks who are giving new memberships and super chats, thank you so much. I want to keep the conversation flowing with Malcolm, so I'll make sure after we're done talking to Malcolm that you all get your due recognition, and I appreciate it. But in any case, where was I? I think I was just talking about the mockery. I mean, I don't know. That has always been second nature to me, and I think when you get in the public eye, I wrote my book on. I think when I wrote my book on McCain was 2008.
Yeah.
And I think I wasn't ready at that point. And I started going on MSNBC in 2006 and 7. And, you know, but comments weren't as big a thing back then. Twitter didn't exist. Facebook was kind of young. And so the first time when I went on to certain blogs from my book and I get stuff like, you killed Jesus, you know, and I'd be like, I was miles away when he was killed. I have a great alibi. I had to sort of develop, you know, and then you start developing a thick skin, and you get to a point where I call it the 3 phases. And I want to kick it to you and ask you questions, Malcolm. 3 phases to me are: first, you're hurt because this has never happened before, and you're like, wow, why do these people hate me? Then you start realizing who they are, and the second phase is, you know, you just ignore it. At least this is how it went for me. So I would ignore them. And the third phase was I find them actually funny and challenge them to do better, which is where I am now. I mean, if I've got time, I'll be like, is that all you got? Come on, come with something. I mean, everybody says I killed Jesus. If you can't get more creative with the language, all of you neo-Nazis said, if you can't get more creative, you know, with how I did it, when I did it, you know, I mean, was it a Black and Decker or, you know, I mean, come on, you gotta, in any case. Thank you, Malcolm Nance, guys. Malcolm Nance is a was a long time covert operative. If I get any of this wrong, you know what, Malcolm, you give us your bio because your bio is, but it's incredible. So go.
I found out that I'm actually being held accountable for the way that people describe me. And, you know, no matter what I say, you know, if something's on a chyron, I can't see it, right? So I have right-wing extremists now who are out there going, this chyron in 2007 said you were. It's like, what? You know, these people got to really get over themselves. So, yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I was MSNBC's counterterrorism and intelligence analyst for 7 years. Before I went into the Ukrainian army. And before that, I was in naval cryptology, which, for those of you who don't know what code breaking is a part of the U.S. intelligence community. I've actually had people say that cryptology is not part of intelligence. It's like, really? It's the largest of all of our agencies.
Isn't it the most basic? I mean, breaking codes would seem to be how, hey, we now know what they said. That feels pretty basic to me.
Yeah, pretty basic. So I was a senior chief petty officer when I retired in the year 2001, and then started working as an intelligence contractor for years and years and years after that. And then I started writing books because my late wife said, you know, you're really doing a lot of relatively dangerous stuff, especially after I came back from my first couple of years in Iraq. She says, why don't you transfer your information to people? So I started writing books. My first success was a textbook that's still used called the Terrorist Recognition Handbook. And it's in its 3rd, going on 4th edition. And then I started writing books about the ideology of Al-Qaeda, how to break that, ISIS, which was my first New York Times bestseller. And then the whole Trump world started. And I, in 2016, saw the outlines of a Russian intelligence operation to get Trump elected way before most in the news media did, and actually went on air and said it, and shocked everyone at MSNBC when I said this is a foreign intelligence operation that's attacking the United States. And like,
so you're part of the Russia collusion, you know?
Oh my God, I am way deep on that.
I know. I remember when you were doing it. I'm just laughing at, you know, the other side and how they.
You know, what's bad is when Bill Barr, the Attorney General, just before the Mueller report, went out to the news media and said, you need to take off all of these people who criticized Donald Trump. And MSNBC complied. They pulled me off air for 3 weeks. And then the Mueller report came out, and I think it was Zerlina Maxwell who said, this shouldn't be called the Mueller report. This should be called the Malcolm report. We've been hearing this for 3 years.
Well, yeah.
You know, so with that, you know, I finished my time at MSNBC. I left MSNBC to join the Ukrainian army. And I was with the Ukrainian army, fought in the Eastern Battlefront for almost a year. And then came back.
What was that like? I mean, because obviously I know you keep in good shape, but getting back into active duty is kind of a different kind of shape, I would have to assume. So what was that like?
Well, it's sort of funny because, I have all these right wing guys who are like, "You're a fat ass," and it's like, really? Because I run. I'm a runner.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I found that was most valuable, sort of like Zombieland, was cardio. Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to falling steel from the sky, you really want to have your haul ass skills honed to a fine degree.
Yeah,
So
that seems about right to me. I would want to be able to run at that point. So,
yeah.
yeah, I never. I mean, again, they'll call all of us whatever names they can muster. But I always saw it with you. I was like, that impressed me more than anything else, just because I have a number of friends who've gone through these, military friends, and I mean, I think I went to background masters in international affairs and
Right.
studied security, and so a lot of the military guys, a lot of the security guys are people I knew who were going out there, and I saw kind of what or heard whatever they could tell me what some of them had to go through, and I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying you're not 20 anymore. None of us
Well,
are, right? So,
what's
well, except for the
fascinating
people in the
though,
chat who are. But
What's
go ahead.
fascinating though is the Ukrainian army had their limit was 65 years old. And in fact, the first international foreign legionnaire who was killed by an artillery bombardment was a German who had 20 years experience in the German army and was 65 years old. So I was on the young end of that spectrum of the
There you
old
go.
guys when I got there. But for the most part, I was fit. I had experience that they wanted. I didn't work in
Sure.
Ukrainian regular infantry until about 4 months that I was there. I was working in Ministry of Defense Intelligence, doing whatever it was that they wanted me to do. And in fact, one of the things they wanted me to do very early on was recruit international legionnaires. And that's when I went on MSNBC in uniform in the middle of an air raid, 2 in the morning in a snowstorm, and said,
Anything else?
"Hey, I've."
Were there weren't any drones over New Jersey too at the time, or no?
No, not at that part. And,
Okay.
but we wanted to show the international flavor of the volunteers in Ukraine. And within 48 hours, I was on Russia's top state TV show, Olga Skabeva, who is the propagandist. The phrase they call her is Putin's mouth.
Ah,
And if
yes, I've heard
she
of her.
says
Yeah.
something, Putin told her to say it. And Olga Skabeva does an entire program about me by name, former U.S. Naval Intelligence, went to Ukraine. And the people I was working with, the Ukrainians, were like, "Oh, listen, this is fun. Now they know who you are." And I thought,
Right.
what are they going to do? Invade Ukraine to get me? They've
Right.
already done that. There's nothing you can do. Shoot cruise missiles. So, but they used to joke, if you get a cold, Moscow did it. If you fall and skin your knee, Moscow did it. If a truck runs you over, Moscow
That's
did
right.
it.
No,
I'm
well,
like, okay, I get the message. All right. I'm going to be
right.
useful after my death.
Well, yeah, I know, right? Like no fifth floor hotel balconies and no tea. Stay
No.
away from it. Stay away from that stuff. But I mean, the amazing. I mean, I'm thinking about it, and I'm just thinking common sense wise. So, right, they would throw you up there in their minds. They're playing to big bad America. See, Ukraine is evil. Big bad America is on their side, helping them. Look at this naval intelligence officer who's there to help them, and I mean, I guess that's all it was about, right? They wanted to blow you up.
Yeah. Oh,
Not blow. Well, they wanted to blow you up too, but they wanted to blow up your personality and your existence there, because that's a way of being able to say the U.S. is behind all of this.
well,
Kind of.
fast forward to 6 months later when we were in the Kharkiv counteroffensive. I made a clip of video where I was on the front, and then the artillery. I mean, the front collapsed so fast that artillery moved up to our forward battle positions. Where they should have been 20 kilometers behind us. And so we're sitting there, and this artillery starts to shoot. And I made my famous "What now, bitches" video, and boom, that hit Russian state TV for 2 weeks nonstop, where they literally, first off, I'm insulted that they couldn't remember that I was the guy they did a program on in April.
Come on, yeah, I would have been like,
And they
come
go,
on, guys.
here's black English-speaking NATO officers leading the Ukrainians, and they're the ones who
Right.
smashed our front line. And I'm like, call Olga Skabeva. She'll remember me.
Right. Of course. I
No,
forgot. Right.
one
They have to
black
play
guy
the
looks just like.
racism too. Of course, you're black. So that, I mean, I can only imagine if I was there, they would have been like the Jew who's, I mean, they play into all that,
Oh,
all that
they've
kind of
done
garbage.
that. We've had Yehuda Ben Aria, or no, Ari Ben Yehuda was a mixed race Jewish fighter
Oh
in the
gosh.
International Legion, and they were like, Mossad is funding this,
Right.
this unit. We're like, hey, Mossad can fund me, bring
I
it
know.
on. We could use anything they'll send, and but that's how propaganda works, right?
Right. Right. And I mean, you saw it with Zelensky. I mean, obviously that's a gift to them. His being
Oh,
Jewish
yeah.
is something they've blown up as much as they can. Because I mean, this is the place of the protocols of the elders of Zion. And
That is
I know
so.
enough. You could, I'm sure, give a recitation of all of it, write a book on it. But the Soviets very much used anti-Semitism in the 60s and 70s
Yes.
because that was part of their plan to split the Western Alliance. I mean,
Yeah.
and
And anti-Semitism in Russia is so deep and so historically
yeah,
ingrained. Protocols of Elders of Zion were written, I believe, in 1905 by
yeah,
the
sounds about right.
Tsarist intelligence agency, the Chekists, and the Soviets were like, "We can run with this."
Yeah, right. I mean, they'll just keep it going because you're right. If it's so deep in a culture where they're saying that they can keep I mean, people love to play on ancient animosities, right? I mean,
Mm,
I'll never forget. And again, I know a lot from my background. You're the
mm,
pro. So if I say anything, correct me. I don't get
sure.
offended. But I'll never forget, forget with Milosevic, for example, trying to point out when he was going to kill Bosnians, like that they had taken this land from him in 1320 or whatever it
Oh.
was. It was still playing on that animosity over that. It was just amazing.
Yeah, when I was in Bosnia, which was really surprising why they put me there, I was more of a resource, an intelligence resource manager. Let me use phrases like that.
Yeah.
Until the the Arabs and the Iranians started showing up in the Bosniak army. We realized one of the phrases that I had optimized for my briefings was that I had gone to Yugoslavia in the mid 1980s. I think we were only the second U.S. warship to ever visit since
Yeah.
Tito, since 1945 or something,
Yeah.
and we were there much longer. The other ship was there for a day. We were there for almost a week. And we took the tours. We went up to Sarajevo. The Olympics were just happening, and
Yep.
all of this was going on. And I learned this: Yugoslavians are Serbs that don't go to church, Muslims that don't go to mosque, right?
Right.
Croats,
Croats who don't go to Catholic church or either. Right. Yeah.
right, at all. But everybody drinks Slivovitz, right? And then when the Bosnian War started, it was Serbs.
We're freezing a little bit, Malcolm. Let's hope we come out of that. Okay, Malcolm froze. I will send a message. I assume he knows, but I'll send him a message and say maybe he should call back in. I do have this on my highest. What do you call it? Yeah, he's gone. Okay, he'll come back. I do have it on my highest internet, so it's not a problem because my internet here, when I'm on the good one, is pretty fantastic. So you can all still hear me pretty well. Yeah, I'm good. Malcolm froze. Okay. I'll shoot him a note and maybe he'll come back on his own because he is an entertaining dude. We don't want to lose him. Come back whenever you can. It was probably the Russians, guys. You know that, right? I blame them for all the freezing. Yeah, see, there we go. Paul Young, or I'm sorry, I got to give credit to Jason Zeha, if I pronounce it right, beat me to it. It was Putin. Oh, no, you said I got loud and clear. Well, that's good. Quantum Cricket, thank you. It was Putin. Or Elon, yes. Well, Elon and Putin are sort of interchangeable at this point, except for Putin actually has more personality, which is sort of embarrassing. Malcolm, that's why I loved talking to him. He's done things, man. I thought I'd done things, and again, as I think I told you all, I had a certain level. I don't even remember; it wasn't high of security clearance to go and just do democracy promotion work. When I would speak to foreign dignitaries and journalists and students and populations on TV and whatever. I did a big trip to Romania. We're on the edge of Ukraine, in fact. When we were in part of Romania, like right on the border that reached Ukraine, we're speaking to both. And then these digital video conferences that I did, where I didn't even have to leave anywhere because this was pre FaceTime. It was the coolest thing in the world. You could actually talk to someone and see them on video. Yes, I'm old, guys. No, I mean, this was like the 2000, I want to say 3, 4, 5 period. So, yeah, you actually during that period of time, could do that, and I couldn't do that from anywhere else. It was the coolest thing. So, that was fun. But, your sound is good, Cliff. Yes. Well, this is the new microphone, by the way. I was borrowing the one from the guy down the hall, and it was so good that I got another one. Let me see if I got an answer from Malcolm. I hope all internet didn't go down because that would be sad. I'll check if everything is okay. Luckily, I'm here. Oh, we get him back. We got the man back. I'm going to add him to the stage. There you are. We just guessed it was Putin that did it.
It's always the Russians.
See, it is everything.
Or not charging up your phone. So,
or not charging up your phone. That's the Russians too. I believe
the Russians did it.
They did.
So
remember, I'll say quickly, and then I'll let you continue. For the people that are younger in here, remember that cool 10-year period of time when Boris Yeltsin was always drinking and Russia was fun again and was cool, and he defended democracy, stood up to tanks when the old guard tried to take over. He and Bill Clinton were like best buds, and we all thought, hey, Russia might actually become a cool place. Putin had to ruin it all. All right. In any case.
Yeah. Well, Russia was Russifying, and interesting time because some of the characters who were there who were in Russia at that time, running newspapers and magazines, Westerners. I believe Glenn Greenwald at one point was over there running a magazine and just having an outrageous fun time exploiting Russia. But these guys who were there early on, who thought that this was a country that was going to embrace democracy, they embraced capitalism. That's a very different thing, right?
Right.
And now they are what they are, which is
crony capitalism too, right? They didn't embrace the capitalism of, as we know, with come on, the guy who took them on because his client was killed. That we have the sanctions. Right. Are named after. I can't think of, but it was essentially start a business here, and then if you did and you're successful, they just sort of come in and take your money, and they were all the oligarchs. Your friend of Putin, you just grab resources. So it was capitalism of a cronyistic sort, but not for most people, right?
Yeah, and if this explains some of the things you guys may have heard during the invasion of Ukraine. One of the first Russian positions we took on during the Kharkiv counteroffensive was at a former Ukrainian space science center, a radio telescope, one of the largest radio telescopes in the world. And when we took the facility, I knew exactly where the commander's bunker was because it was lined with boxed washing machines and dryers that they had looted. And he didn't take one, he took 10. Right? And this was his cut to go back and sell them on the streets because, Russia the infrastructure of Russia is still Soviet. It's
Right.
not, it was never really improved. So most people still do their laundry at communal laundries. They're not done in their house. So even in 2022, a washer and dryer was an insane luxury. And that money never trickled down from 2000, when Putin became first prime minister, then president, never
Right.
trickled down to the people at all.
So what you're saying is every movie I've watched, from The Saint with Val Kilmer to Jason Bourne over there, is pretty much accurate in its depiction of what Russia looks like.
I certainly think the Jason Bourne part is accurate. My only problem with movies like that is that they have this unrealistic belief that the police really listen to their radios and will respond
Right.
to these things. If you leave a bottle of vodka on the street corner, no one's coming to come help you. So
I got in trouble
with
Dark Shabdu here for putting up Magnitsky Act. That's what I was trying to think.
That's correct.
Of. I couldn't think of it, and yes, thank you for that.
Bill Browder's lawyer.
Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. Like, that was about that, right? Like, they could just come on in and, hey, give us all of your money, or if you think your business is doing well, we'll just kill you.
Well, Khodorkovsky is the big character who ran Russian TV and radio stations, and Putin just came in and said, I'm just seizing all of your assets. He was in England and managed to remain in England and not walk out of a 20-story building. So, Nikola Khodorkovsky is very, very lucky to be alive, even though he lost everything.
Now, why did that? Because he was an oligarch, right? Is he the one? Did he own Chelsea at one point, the soccer team?
Yes.
And that's what I thought. So, I mean, life was good, all of that. Did he stand up to Putin was it because a couple of them spoke out against the war, and that really pissed Putin off? Was that what happened with him, or was it something else?
Well, it was mainly the criticisms on television of Vladimir Putin, and the breaking point for all of Russian media, where Putin is doing what they're doing for free for Trump right now, was the sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk, which was an accident. Submarine had an explosion in a forward torpedo compartment, sank. Men were alive for hours. He wouldn't take assistance from NATO. And,
that was so,
but people were coming on TV for the first time and asking questions that you weren't allowed to ask in the time of the Soviet Union. Saying, why is my son dead? What did the Navy do? Why aren't you taking assistance? And Putin was like, we're putting an end to this. This is, sorry, my
no, fix it as you will. Just make sure it's charged, and we're all good.
Charged it is. And he said, we're going to put an end to this, right? And then they seized Channel 1, which was the top news channel in Russia, and turned it into a variety show channel, action films and variety show. Therefore, he got rid of all criticism of him in one fell swoop, and he just seized everyone's assets. If you were a billionaire and you criticized him, he just took everything. He nationalized your assets.
And I assume if they did like a mockery of him on the variety show, we'd have a V for Vendetta type situation.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were just coming. They're not going to let that happen.
No, not at all.
So, what did I want? Oh, I wanted to ask you something related to this. Okay, so with Russia and I know Putin's backstory, right? I mean, from St. Petersburg he had been a KGB guy, and I think Yeltsin was so sick that he couldn't, he was just anointed him the next guy, because I'm sure Putin was a big pain, was an Elon Musk type pain in the butt that just probably kept bothering him and saying, are you okay?
Sorry, just my contact got something in it.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned Putin. I got so caught up in,
you just felt so sorry for him that you tear
immediately. The funny thing is, I wrote quite extensively about Putin in my book, The Plot to Betray America, which was about Team Trump cozying up to the Russians. And interesting thing about Putin, he went to a KGB open house when he was 13. And he really wanted to join the KGB. And, they laughed at him and said, okay, kid, go to school, get a law degree, then come back. And he did exactly that and became a junior KGB officer. I went to Germany. I went to his office in Dresden, where
Yeah.
he, you could sit
Oh,
right
yeah.
where
He was stationed
he worked.
in East Germany for a while. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
in
Right.
East Germany. And unlike his fellow KGB officers who were just there to drink beer and get Western goods, he really believed in the art of manipulation. He was a real human intelligence officer who liked the game. And
So
many of these people who were there when the fall of the Soviet Union happened and the fall of East Germany happened, he realized he could blackmail and manipulate just about anybody.
that's right. They must have
And
had a
that was
trove of
his
information.
skill.
Yeah.
Mhm. That was his skill.
So do you think, or do you know? I'll ask you either way. Do you think Yeltsin was in of sound mind when he said kind of anointed him as a successor? Was threatened? Was I
Well,
mean,
that
go
was
ahead.
very simple. I mean, first off, Putin was now the head of the first director of the FSB,
Right.
right? Which was, this is how the FSB came about. A guy came up from maintenance at number 10 Dzerzhinsky Square, which was the former headquarters of the KGB, and he
Yep.
bought two letters with him, and a screwdriver, and he took down K and G and put up the letters F and S, and that's it. And then they
That's right. You
got
don't have to
a
take the B down. It
you don't
saves some
even
money
have to
that way.
take the B down. So, and that's how the budget increased as well. Wow, I'm having real uh, articulating arm problems here today. But Putin, as the first director of FSB, went to Yeltsin. Yeltsin was under investigation by the state prosecutor general for corruption with himself, corruption with his daughter. And Putin, I guess, went to him and said, I can make these problems go away. You'll have to promote me to prime minister. Yeltsin agreed. And Putin had two women seduce the prosecutor in general. And there was a video of him in bed with these two women that weren't his wife. And
So he
it was
had him from
broadcast
that.
all over state TV. Yeltsin, being eternally grateful, made him prime minister. And then the mysterious bombings of apartments occurred all over Russia
Right, blamed on
and
Chechens. We're still. I
rage
still
on
think.
Chechens. And
Okay, I don't
Putin
know if this
became
is.
president.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if this is a classified kind of thing you can't speak to, but I
Oh,
mean,
I see
it
the
was
problem.
too much perfect timing. I have always been sure that Putin was behind that on some level, but maybe you know something else, or maybe you just can't say anything. I don't know.
Well,
Say whatever you can.
not from a classified basis, just only from my own research and writing that Putin, there was a lot of evidence, two incidents where FSB officers were caught planting explosives. And one, they claimed it was an exercise. The other one, the device didn't detonate, and they were there trying to take the explosives out, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, it all worked in Putin's favor. It was the
Well,
right
and
shot
if there's
fired that they
evidence
needed.
too, right? I mean, I'm sorry, there can be a lot of people involved in a secretive, plot, and if there's evidence of it, like there were secretive plots to kill Hitler. Sadly, they
Right.
failed, but they weren't conspiracies. I mean, they were, if you use the term in that way, but it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It happened. Rommel was killed because of it. I mean,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it was legit. Well, so yeah, I mean, I've always believed that. And I always wondered about the Moscow theater too. Do you think that
Yeah,
was
the Novirsky Theater siege. No, I think that was legit.
okay?
I had been tracking Chechen rebels and Chechen operations and for quite some time as part of my as a matter of fact, the first place I ever saw them was in Western Bosnia, right? For guys who had fought the Chechen War and had come as the Arab Islamic extremist brigades who were out
Right.
there. That's where we started tracking them out toward in Western Bosnia, who were on the battlefront fighting. And the Chechen Dagestan problem is a real thing. Who wrote a book about it? I think it was Tolstoy who wrote a book called Haji Kadir in the mid to late 1800s,
Uh
which
huh.
was about this Islamic extremist, Sheikh Muslim imam who started an uprising there. This is a very old problem.
It is.
And so the theater massacre started out as a real siege, but it also shows you what Russia thinks of people, no value
Right.
in their lives. So
And I'll
killing
add in
several
again
hundred.
to what you're saying, to back it up of that region and some of the extremism there, people may remember, that this was in the wake of Hamas's attack on Israel initially, that a plane landed in Dagestan, and there were people there breaking down gates looking for quote unquote
Hunting
Jews.
for the Jews, right?
They were looking any Jews on. It was a plane going through there. I don't remember where it was headed to, but they were looking for Jews to pull off the plane and kill.
Right.
So I was like, okay, Dagestan is crossed off the vacation list. Not going there.
Ingushetia, Dagestan, Chechnya.
Not good spots to go to, right?
Yeah.
So one thing, I'm not sure if you know personally my friend. He does a show too, Tony Michaels, who I think would love to have you on his show. He's got a show that has a pretty solid following. A lot of the folks here also watch his. He wanted me to ask you, and I told him I knew some of this answer, but the strategic loss of Bashar al-Assad and how, because every bad person who we are enemies with, from terrorists to countries, seem to be quite fond of Mr. Assad and his staying there so he could gas more people and make Tulsi smile even bigger than she does now. Sorry, I had to take a shot. I mean, they're finding mass graves with 100,000. I mean, it's sickening what they're finding there. So
yeah. They're going to find mass graves, but maybe not of 100,000. Maybe.
Well, I may be exaggerating, and I'm probably getting the number wrong. I don't remember what the number. It was an atrocious number. With the
right.
So, how did you see that coming? And two questions. One, did you see that coming? And two, once it happened, and of course he went to where else? Moscow. Right. How they've lost at least 2 bases. Moscow, the Iranians lost supply routes, and so did terrorists. So I guess I'll ask you first: do you see it coming? Second, and how has it harmed what I would call it an axis of evil, call it a group of evil people, call it a group of a-holes? I don't care what you call them. How has it harmed them?
Well, first off, I did a lot of operations when I initially came into intelligence in Syria. I spoke Syrian Levantine dialect Arabic. That was the first dialect I learned. And, had a vested interest in how activities were being carried out there, took part in, operations that involved airstrikes against the Syrians in 1983, a whole bunch of things. And, and worked very closely with Israel and, over the years. But I said this to Jill Weinbanks yesterday on her podcast. What you've seen here with the HTS, right? The Hayat al-Tahrir al-Sham, that was the group that did the liberation. When they took Aleppo and blitzed, as soon as I saw the car convoys, the organization that they had, that group, by the way, is backed by Turkey, but early on was backed by the Gulf states, the Saudis.
Okay.
And they had a lot of resources.
I was going to ask you that. So is that something different, or is that a Sunni Shia kind of?
Well, this was less a Sunni Shia war, more of a Sunni rising war.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Shia just happened to be there. Syria was ruled by minority groups: Alawites, Christians, and Druze.
Right.
We were a very, very small minority who lorded over the Sunni majority. Right? Most of the country is Sunni; they're not Shia, and so they helped with the assistance of the Iranians, who backed Shia militias in Iraq, backed Shia militias in Syria, and had Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. It was almost impossible to get at them. They had too many resources. Then Russia came on their side with airstrikes, these permanent bases there. Russia had been in and out of Tartus and Latakia forever. And it was only, after 2015 that Russia came into Humamim Air Base in a big way and turned it into from an old sleepy helicopter base, as I remember it, to a major strike fighter base, a very large strike fighter base.
They get to Northern Africa from there, correct? I mean,
and they would also do jumps into Northern Africa with PMC Wagner, into Sudan, Libya, Mali, Chad, which is where they were expanding this footprint of just bodying leaders and getting rid of the old lines of influence from Europe and the United States. And it appeared successful. It's all gone now. All right. Losing Syria. Syria was the last of the confrontation states with Israel. in all of their wars, 48, 56, 67,
That's right.
73.
I didn't
Syria
think
is
about
the
that.
last of them. When the Egyptians cut their peace deal in 76, it was just Syria alone being one of those countries that was militarily facing off against Israel.
Right, and
Israel has
Jordan
now,
obviously had created much better relations with
oh
Israel
yeah,
too. So, yeah.
Jordan and Israel are,
I mean, Jordan
you
was
know,
part of our right. They're part of our coalition in the
they're
Gulf
like that.
War, right? So,
Yeah,
I
and they
mean,
were part of the coalition, the defensive coalition
yep.
last April when Iran did their major attacks. The Jordanian Air Force scrambled, right? They were shooting down drones and helping, letting the Israelis come into their airspace to engage missiles and drones as well. This is also existential to them.
Yep.
So by Syria falling, and I knew something was up when Aleppo fell like that. I said, no one's resisting these guys. The Russian Air Force wasn't sortying. They were moving so fast. I said, this seems vaguely familiar to me. And, you know, I
Right.
participated in operations in parts of North Africa where very lightly armed groups would move so fast. They would blitz right through major army formations, take their bases, surround them. The average soldier just wants to drink tea and sit around and, you know, in his flip-flops or his bare feet, and they
They're
would
like the rest of
lose.
us, I guess. Yeah.
So the loss of Syria ends Iran's 48-year experiment to have a crescent of Shia Islam on the ground confronting Israel. And let's be honest, thank Hamas for this. Now, it's horrible.
Right.
I mean,
It's
I went to Israel soon after the massacres, you know, in the
And can
kibbutzim
I
in
say
the
something
south.
quickly? And
Mhm.
because I think this is really important. I always so appreciate your voice out there, Malcolm, because as somebody, you know, I may be somewhat of an expert in international affairs. I've been to a lot of these places and everything. But, you know, everybody's going to always assume because of my background that I'm biased on the subject. And, you know, I have been a vocal critic of Netanyahu, who to me
Right.
is a Israeli Trump, and the
Yeah.
far right in Israel that it is racist and it you know wants to kill Palestinian civilians. But that people, but when the reaction to the horror of that day, that was you know as 9/11 ish as it gets, but it's instead up close and personal with people literally filming it as they're raping and torturing and murdering families in front of each other, and the kind of things they were doing. You know, that led to a certain an anger for me immediately because
Mhm.
it was even before there was a response. People were like,
Right.
ceasefire, ceasefire, no response. And I'm like, first of all, no, that's not how
Ceasefire.
this works. If you're
That's not
attacked
how
by
this
people,
works.
and exactly, if you're attacked by people and your civilians are massacred and tortured, no. But second of all, you know, when you started to see the sort of some of the elements of the Free Palestine movement. Look, not wanting Gazan civilians to die, I agree with that. Not wanting
Mhm.
anybody innocent to die, I agree with that. But the people that didn't see this for what it was, who I just don't think had the foreign policy background, which was an obvious op from the beginning, Hamas supported by Iran, Iran supported um, by
Russia.
Russia. And I tried
Mhm.
to point out to people, and you helped me amplify when I was doing some of this work, when you know, which Russia was trying to get people to look away. And
Right.
I've pointed this out so many times on here. You know, one of my last big PR clients was a group called Birthright Armenia,
Mhm.
and what we were doing is an art sock trying to prevent Azerbaijan from marching in another right, you know, another kleptocratic extremist, you know, leader from going into these ethnic Armenians and kicking them out, ethnic cleansing. And that where Aliyev, their leader, where was he the day before he gave the go ahead? Why he was in Moscow meeting with Putin. That people couldn't understand that I was trying to make the argument that all of these things, whatever you think of civilians on the ground, nobody wants civilians to die. But you
Right.
have to look at a bigger picture here of what they're doing to try to get people to look away, you know, from Ukraine and what they're doing to destabilize the area. So from
Well, I
there, I'll
mean,
kick it to
look,
you because I appreciate
sure.
you speaking out and trying to explain to people what was actually going on there.
For a very long time, my pinned tweet on Twitter was, do I look like I give a flip, right? Actually, I
I
made a
loved it.
mistake in the spelling.
Yes.
And it was like, why should you listen to me, a guy that's worked in the Middle East for almost 40 years, worked on the ground, fought multiple wars over there. Why
Right.
listen to me when you can just listen to people who have hashtag Free Palestine on Twitter?
Right.
And it was ridiculous. My philosophy comes from, precisely as people know me, the counterterrorism perspective. This was an invasion of Israel. They attempted a genocide because their ops orders, I don't have it right here. I think it's over on the table over there. I have a copy of all of their operations orders at the max at the theater level for every Hamas team that went in there.
Do you
And rule
really?
one,
You got. I
yes.
won't ask you how you got a hold of it, but
Oh no,
that's
I went
fascinating.
to I went out with the Israeli army. I went, and they photocopied for me color copies. First we went through a lot of the material that they had on their operatives. Your army sucks when I got 3 of your battle flags you were supposed to raise in Jerusalem. All right, covered with blood. So you suck. But
Well,
these
I
are
may have to pay you
terrorists.
some money for one of those someday.
Oh no, but they're terrorists who invaded a country
Right.
like ISIS and attempted to slaughter every man, woman, child, dog there. They killed a tribe of 78 Muslim Bedouins. And they said, you're no better than Jews because
Right.
you remained on this side of the border. And let me tell you, the one most powerful thing, I've said this 100 times to people, Steven Spielberg needs to make a movie about what happened on 10/7.
He
Because
does.
I
After
was
he made
watching the
Munich and some
videos.
other related things, I think he could do a really good job with it, probably.
Yeah, but I saw the videos and I was like, here's, Palestinian teams moving through Ashkelon. I'm like, Ashkelon? I've been to Ashkelon. No one should be near Ashkelon.
Right.
Nope. They were flowing through by the hundreds, thousands, actually, a 3,000 man assault force. And they decided they would kill everyone who was there. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists. They slaughtered the 21 Thai rice workers, right, on video. I have the video
Yeah.
of them shooting them to death.
Children at a peace festival who were
Oh
actually
my
saying,
God.
let's have better relations between Jews and Palestinians. That was literally the point of that festival. And they show up and they gun them down and kidnap them and rape
I
them.
know. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been on the side of the Nova Festival. It's horrific. But what you see here is you saw a terrorist invasion, and then you saw the terrorists get slapped back. Hamas, and I've written several substacks on this, one of which was entitled Hamas Needs Dead Babies. And their philosophy was we push out, we kill, we
What's the
grab what
name of
we
your
can.
Substack? Just quickly, I want to make sure everybody here
Yeah,
can.
it's called Special Intelligence, and it's at malcolmnance.substack.com.
Hey, Jim is in there. If you can find, you may have already put it up, but Malcolm's Substack and some of his information for folks here to look at, that would be great.
Yeah. So Hamas's philosophy was we will bring the war back to Gaza. We will go underground. And the people above them, and this is where the news media was wrong. They kept saying Hamas was using civilians as human shields. They were not. They were using them as human sponges because they knew that those bombs would have to fall through apartment complexes or within the blast radius to get at the tunnels. And they
Yes.
didn't care about who was above ground. So they sacrificed, and they said it themselves. We need the blood of the dead civilians, the dead martyrs, to act as our revolutionary fuel. That's what they said. And they don't care. They needed dead babies on the Israeli side to get the Israelis to carry out their
No,
operation.
they're a death cult. They're medieval.
Absolutely.
The manner in which
Absolutely.
the manner in which they slaughtered people is the kind of thing you see in medieval, wars, and that. I mean, it was horrific. So I guess
Oh, it was
go ahead.
ISIS-like in its execution. And,
Yep.
I was one of the first people to hashtag, Hamas equals ISIS. And I had
Yes.
people, I got into major battles with
Oh, I know.
people in news media and academia. One guy is a professor at Georgetown University. right, who wrote a book on Islamophobia, came at me and called me something like a Zionist loving da 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 da, and I went off on him. I was like, before we go one step further, you will apologize to me with your racist, racist diatribe. Now, tell me, all right, tell me that you reject the mass murder of Hamas. And I held his feet to the fire for about 20 tweets until he finally reluctantly came around and goes, oh, no one wanted to see the killing on 10/7. Really? Because a lot of people in the United States did. And a lot of people who claimed they were allies of Free Palestine couldn't spell Gaza, right? Couldn't point to it on a map. Couldn't show
No,
you which
and you know what
hemisphere it was in.
else? When I tried to get these very same people, because I care about human beings. So when I
Yes,
would try to, from my foreign policy knowledge, point out what was going on, in Ethiopia or what was going on in
right.
Sudan, when I would
Sudan,
point out
right?
what was going on to the Rohingya,
Right.
when I would point, and I don't care because I can find every different race, every different religion. When I would point out, what Modi was doing, when I would point out, and then the big one, what was going on with Armenia,
Right.
Armenian Christians, again, one of the
Right.
oldest Christian civilizations. So there was no free
Crickets.
Armenia hashtag. There are no kids on campus who are out there doing that. And
Yeah,
again, that
and
doesn't. Go ahead.
what's worse is, I spent a good piece of my career. I mean, I grew up in Philadelphia. I was a Catholic kid that grew up in an
Great
Orthodox Jewish
town.
neighborhood.
That's where I went
You know,
to college. Jim's always the best cheesesteaks. We can fight
right?
that
Where'd
out
you
if
go
you
to
want.
college? Where'd you
Sometimes
go to college?
I went to Penn, which
You went
uh,
to Penn, yeah.
you know what I should have said? I went to college the same place as the guy who shot the healthcare CEO, the entire Trump family, Elon Musk, Cenk Uygur, Frank Luntz. I swear to God, at this point, I don't even know if I want to admit I went to Penn anymore. I'm only proud of John Legend. We have John Legend, and that makes me happy. Otherwise, Penn, man, I can't even imagine being in the Penn, the department of alumni relations and communications, and trying to be like, after dealing with Elon and Trump, they're like, my God, somebody just shot the healthcare guy, and he went to Penn too. Like, I mean, I can't even. In
Yeah,
any case,
well,
go
you had
ahead.
a yeah, as I was saying, I grew up in Philadelphia, as a Catholic kid in an Orthodox Jewish
Yeah.
neighborhood. So one of the first things that I had learned about, my dad was a World War II veteran.
Yep.
And, he imparted upon me the horror of the Holocaust. And I found it just offensive that people were coming up to me and saying, what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. Well, I've seen the locations of genocide. I've
And we
been
have
to
somebody who's been saying
Auschwitz,
that in the
Dachau.
comments here, Malcolm. And I was going to highlight it. I didn't think he deserved that, but I'm glad
Mhm.
you're addressing this, because as much as we think as any innocent civilian dying is horrible, I want you to
Yes.
address that charge because I think it's ludicrous. Go ahead.
Well, the funny thing about it is that, I've seen these places. I've been to Dachau. I've spoke twice at Auschwitz. I actually went to a conference. I spoke at a conference called Never Again, Really?
Yep.
In 2019. That was held at Auschwitz, where they kept seeing all the signs of a rising global authoritarianism. So I met people from Rwanda. I met people from Bosnia. Places where people have put it on the table. We will eliminate all of you. Survivors from Cambodia. I went to Kampuchea the week after
Jeez, Khmer
tourism
Rouge. I
opened.
mean, that's a genocide.
I went there in 2000, in 1996, I want to say. They had just opened up, and I met the brand new Minister of Education, who I asked him, it's a 45-year-old man. I said, how are you alive? Because the country's made up of 18 years old. And he
right.
had gone out into the sticks and had pretended like he was like mentally ill. But these people had real genocides. A war, by definition, is not a genocide.
Right.
Okay, genocide would have been, Terminators, right? Just coming through every living thing. This war was a 100-meter war, which means it was fought every 100 meters, and Hamas chose the battle space. Hamas chose the means at which the war would be waged, and Hamas chose where and how they would confront the Israelis, which was everywhere, and knew that by restricting civilians' movements, that these people would die and hope that they would become obstacles for them, which is why
Right.
the Substack was called Hamas Needs Dead Babies. They need dead Israeli babies to get the Israelis angry to come, and then they needed dead Palestinian babies to mobilize the global media against the Israelis.
And they also, again, it's in their own these days, their popular manifesto of their beliefs. There's, from the river to the sea. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
simple.
and that's a term of genocide. It
Right.
means we will, what we didn't affect when we ran, when people left their homes in 1948, relying on the combined Arab armies to wipe out and kill every Jew and give them their land and property. From the river to the sea means we really, really intend to do that at some point.
Right.
So
You
anyone
pointed
that
out
uses
earlier.
that phrase is
You pointed out
is
earlier all the
really,
wars, including the one in 48 when Israel accepted the partition and the other side rejected it and then attacked them, that there have been numerous attempts to finish off what the Nazis started and have a genocide in Israel. And every single one of those wars, and again, I'm not defending everything Israel's done, and I'm certainly not defending Netanyahu and whatever. Doesn't matter. Every one of those wars where Israel was attacked from 68, 67, 73, pick any one of them. And if they lose any one of those, there's a genocide, is what ends up happening.
they were existential wars, especially in 73. The Egyptians got so close that that Golda Meir was talking about arming nukes. So things are pretty bad when she uses phrases like, "I think the third temple of Israel is going to fall," and it's like, "Ooh, that's not good."
No, we don't want that. I mean, and that's the thing, and that's what gets me so angry is that you can label what happened here correctly. You can have sympathy for lost lives. You can have all of that, but war is awful. Civilians die in war. I'll ask you this: do you think there is a way? Because you know this better than I do, that Israel could have conducted operations against Hamas with fewer civilian casualties. Let me ask you that.
Only if they decided to compromise and have massive Israeli casualties. Look, the battle space is unique in almost, with exception of maybe the Battle of Stalingrad, right? It's a unique battle space. It was 25 kilometers by 10 kilometers deep of solid 3 to 10 story urban buildup. And so no matter which direction you came at it, you had to strike the infrastructure with aerial power. Bombs blow up, right? Literally. And I remember at one point, I saw some insanely precision Israeli strikes, insanely precision. And I was hearing on the news these indiscriminate random Israeli strikes. Let me tell you, Israel does not randomly strike anything. Where Israel aims at something, like the United States, we hit it. But what civilians don't understand is that bombs have a blast effect and a radius.
I say a blast radius. Yeah, right.
Yeah, blast radius. And if you don't allow civilians to get there, if civilians choose not to move, when we had the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004, we emptied the city. 36,000 soldiers surrounded and attacked that city to root out 5,000 Al-Qaeda and Saddam Fedayeen terrorists. And the city was 98% empty, and still 1,400 civilians were killed in the crossfire.
Right. Well, look what's happened in Beirut, and look what's happening. I mean, city warfare by definition is horrific.
Yes.
Nobody wants to engage in that. That doesn't make it genocide. And what it does make it is when you have a group whose own, propaganda or manifesto belief system is genocide, like Hamas, again, they are purposely placing themselves where they can so the most civilians possible, as you wrote in your Substack, will die. And it's just amazing to me. But how did we lose that information war so badly? I mean, Israel, I would think, would be better at this.
No. Israel really sucked at it. And I actually had an opportunity when I was there at the office of the spokesman of the IDF to say, you're really bad at this. Even though
they reminded me of the Democrats, where they just think that people are going to understand it without actually explaining it.
Without explaining it in headline terms.
Yes.
No one wants to read your fine print, right?
Yep, they read
It's
chyrons and headlines. That's what people read.
yeah. And so as far as Israel being able to do it in a better manner, I really think, and it's people are going to say, "Oh, that's awful." They did not use the entire force of the Israeli army. They did this piecemeal, sort of, what I call slow Pac-Man,
Yes.
which is how you have to do it. Israel mobilized 100,000 men in addition to the main force of the army. Israel should have mobilized 500,000 men and women, and they should have gone in at every angle and pushed to the sea. Now,
Now,
what would that have had? You would have had
yep.
1,000 dead instead of 500 dead.
Yep.
There would have been. Now, that's another thing that I faulted them at, and I actually spoke to them. I said, you have enough resources in Israel that you could evacuate every wounded Palestinian to Ashkelon, Beersheba, to IDF medical facilities. You could have set up the entirety of the global medical support arena in Israel and said, "Hey, listen, anybody that gets hurt, we're going to bring you out. Right? We're gonna allow ambulances in and out." I don't like Netanyahu's methods. I think that he, by allowing this war to go past 1 year, is insane.
Yep.
It's insane. There are forces and tunnels that they're just starting to find. You wouldn't have had that problem if you had rushed, if you had come in at
So
every
strategically,
angle.
had he committed more like from the beginning? But that's
Yeah.
the issue. Do we think part of this in the end was his doing what he thought he needed to do to stay in power? I wonder.
Yeah, that's politics, and the methodological way that he did it, as opposed to getting the job done, really made me think that he was meeting political objectives. And they
Yes.
love him in Israel. When I was in Israel, no one faulted him. Whereas I said on day 2,
Yes.
on October 8th, why is Netanyahu in power? He should have had the decency to resign
I was going
because
to
he
say, you
failed at the
failed, my
fundamental
man.
job of protecting Israel.
I mean,
Hand it over to somebody else. Let them do it. It's an army mission now. Form your coalition government, but not you. And if he had done that, 90% of the global approbation would have gone away.
yeah, now that's what I'm saying. And also, again, you can tell me if this is true or not. Read in multiple sources, but what can you trust at all anymore? Had he moved much of the defensive presence or at least military presence up into the West Bank area to protect settlers there who obviously were illegally settling and sort of ignored their southern flank? Or is that?
Yeah, that actually is a fact. He had moved 2 divisions off of the Gaza front and had moved them into the West Bank at 1 year before this operation. Also, there's the entire how can you put it, the malpractice of not listening to the ground level intelligence analysts and collectors who were going, "Hey, these guys are talking about seizing Kfar Aza, Kfar Berry,
Right.
and they've got a unit that's tasked to go to Ashkelon." And they had run a drill 2 weeks before the invasion. And people say to me all the time, they were like, "Oh, well, that's just a breakdown in the chain of command." No, it isn't. I've been to Israel, almost married an Israeli once, way back when. It is 2 things: arrogance and misogyny. And let's be honest, they can be a little misogynistic over there.
Yes,
And
they
they don't
can.
want to hear from some junior lieutenant or major who comes to them with this revelation because their arrogance says this, right? They wouldn't dare. Well, when I approach an intelligence target like this, my mindset is always, oh, they could get away with this. So
Yeah,
what do
right.
we do to prevent it?
I mean, they wouldn't dare. If you ever have that mindset about anything, sounds a
Mhm.
lot to me like, Condoleezza Rice saying, well, we had no idea they could fly airplanes into buildings, except for the 12 different warnings you got, and the time that
Or
the terrorists took over a plane and tried to fly into the Eiffel Tower in France, and hell, even what's his name wrote a book about it, crashing into the Capitol. I can't even think of his name right now,
Tom
but
Clancy.
Thank
right?
you. Like
Debt of
he thought
honor.
of it. If he thought of it, you could have thought of it.
Well,
I
she
mean,
should have thought of it because an airplane crashed about 150 feet from her office into the White House at
yeah,
one point. A light airplane did that
that's
back in the
right.
1980s.
That's right. I
So
forgot
don't
about
tell
that. Yeah.
me that. I'm sure you got it. That is part of your briefing. But this is it's not a lack of imagination. It's a lack of your imagination
Right.
being able to process what your intelligence community is telling you. And
You
this is
need to
why
come in with an open mind like you would anything else. When I've worked on run political campaigns, strategy, this, that. If you come in with your biases and you're so sure that this couldn't happen, that's when you lose.
yeah,
You should be open to the
absolutely.
idea that anything can happen. Let your intelligence, let your data, let experienced folks tell you what's going to happen, and you figure it out from there. It would seem to me.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
so with all of that, we were going to get to something important, that I think probably unify everybody here, which is you were developing a plan and how you believe we should react to the inauguration of our own extremist lunatic nut in this country. And I figured we wanted to have you on to talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, I wrote a Substack last week, which I'm going to restack after Christmas because people just aren't paying attention to it. But it's
Yeah.
called, How to Start a New National Resistance. And Mark Elias, the lawyer, who's doing brilliant work, said the Democrats, the progressives, liberals, never Trumpers, need to create a new opposition. And the opposition needs to be synchronized, synthesized, and work together. Yes, because that's the job of the Democratic Party in the political body. When I
Right.
say a resistance, I mean you, the individual,
Yep.
your mindset, your posture, how you are going to face this world when it comes. The average person who's listening to you, the average person who's on Twitter or Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they don't ever they're expecting to be given some sort of, tips and
Yep.
communications that will help them at a single individual level resist what's going on. And
Right.
so what I said in this Substack is, look, here's 3 things you can do, which actually came out to 4, right? That you can do to start by programming counter inauguration, activities. And the first one is very, very simple. A 100-hour media blackout.
I
Starting the
like it.
morning, 8 a.m. of the 20th, or whenever you want, turn it off. Turn the TVs off. Turn off, if so, don't follow the inauguration in social media, all right, at all. Just
Okay.
do not engage in it. Do not take part in it. Don't bring your presence to it. And this
So
is something.
social media, are you saying don't respond there either?
Yes.
Because
So I mean,
I already refuse
if
to
you want
watch
to,
cable, and I've got my sources. I'm sure you're familiar with some of them because you go on them like me, like Stephanie Miller and
sure.
Hal Sparks. The sexy liberal universe is my universe.
Yeah.
But the other stuff I mean, that's easy, and I don't think I could stomach watching Trump be inaugurated and
Right.
having all of our leaders there treating him like it's normal. So
Sure.
very easy
So
for me to not watch it.
But if we coordinate this, right, we
Yes.
get this word out there so that there's the great inauguration blackout. Here's the kicker. 1, it's quantifiable because the news media will know who's not watching. Not at
Yep.
all. And this is when I say, do not change the channel on there. Your 1 second on their channel will be counted as viewership. We want to personally show them the power of not watching you or participating in this. Number 2, by doing that, it becomes a story. And by the end of the week, when that
what I
100
always
hours
say.
goes out, the
Yes,
media will be
spectacle
going, hey,
creates.
wait a minute.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
on.
I'm sorry, Malcolm.
Yeah, the media will say, hey, wait a minute. Wow, there was a huge blackout. And, these people chose not to participate. And, I actually made a joke that we should form a political action committee that could be called NOPE, NOPE, right? Not our president ever. and,
I
to
like
where
it.
we just say, you're having your time. This is the guy you voted for. 77 million of them voted for you, right? But 76.5 million didn't, and 90 million didn't vote at
Vote at
all.
all. Yeah.
You right? So don't come up here and tell us this is a mandate. Don't come up and shove your lives in our face. We don't care what you say. We'll catch it the following Saturday when we turn our systems back on, and maybe I will focus it on, making people watch Jonathan Capehart and Michael Steele's show only,
Yep.
because
Right.
those are
The
two
couple
people who are
people that are
pretty
being,
fair arbiters.
yes, they've been honest. I still love that Jonathan Capehart. I had a video I did that went viral on here and got, I don't know. I mean, not crazy viral, but 125,000 views or something. When Capehart, when he basically ripped Hugh Hewitt. Hugh Hewitt started crying and stood up and threw down his microphone and said, "I'm leaving and I quit." And I was very proud of that. I don't know Jonathan Capehart personally. I'd like to just to
Such a
shake
nice
his
guy.
hand on the fact that he made Hugh Hewitt cry like a little baby and storm off. So that was
Yeah,
nice.
well, but his show and other shows are on the chopping block now. Anything that is openly opposed to Trump is likely to be cut. So
like I find Lawrence O'Donnell to be very helpful on. Like
but
I'm
if
not.
we,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
but if we, as rejectionists, right, and resistance, if we can focus our financial savvy, which is our presence. And this, by the way, comes from a philosophy of Dan Savage, the sex columnist, who would
I've
say
had him
that,
on a past podcast. He's
love
terrific.
Dan Savage.
Yeah.
Great. He's a brilliant guy. I spoke to him
Hilarious.
recently. And Dan's philosophy is, if you cannot accept us as we are, we will remove our presence from your life. Right. And this is how you get people that reject homosexuals or transgendered people, but want you to, keep being involved in their life. No, you have to work with a strategy of absence, not a strategy of in-your-face protests. Right now, we know Trump wants in-your-face protest. And we know, let's be honest, some of the most activated people out there in Antifa are actually violent extremists of Black Bloc and the anarchists and these other groups, and they want to hijack this movement. And the Trump at 1 minute past 12 on the 20th will have all the authority to use any violence and force of the United States government he wants. So don't be there. But if you must be there, that leads me to another strategy you can use. The first one was 100-hour blackout. The second one was the great Twitter walk-off. At 12 noon on the 20th to protest President Musk, okay, if you are not a major influencer, which means hundreds of thousands of followers, delete your Twitter account.
Okay.
Delete it.
I used to have 100, but it's magically fallen by about 15,000 in the last month because I've been planning. I've been downloading my data, and of course, it always cuts off in the middle. So I had been planning to actually shut it down. I haven't yet because the a-holes there can't seem to give me my data so I can be done. So once I do that, I was going to do it, but I'm happy to wait till if that day has more impact. I'll wait till that day to do it. That's fine with me.
The only thing that I say is that guys like you, influencers, people like myself, I have 1 million followers. I lost 100,000 followers in a day. That's how many bots were following me.
I believe it. Because if you think about the percentage, if I had, I think where I topped out, I hit, I think around 100, 101, something like that. If you think about falling from that to wherever I am now, 84, 85, pretty easy math to do,
15%.
right? If you're doing, I mean, it's pretty easy math, right? 14, 15%. I mean, I would expect you would have lost, if you had 1 million, that you would have lost 150 or something. I mean, like it's clear that people, it's a combo. I think people leaving, bots stop following because they were trying to mess with us during the election.
Yeah, mine was straight up bots. 24-hour period, 100,000 disappeared. There's a light switch. So the great Twitter walk-off, or the great Twitter walkout to protest, President Musk.
And that's my addendum. I this time I have to interrupt because I'm going to say my addendum to what you're saying is to continue saying what you're saying, everybody. President Musk, it drives Trump freaking nuts. He's already starting to complain about it. He's already starting to tweet about it. President Musk, say it constantly. Those two are going to get in a fight. Let's speed it up.
Yep, works for me. So that is what's we propose happen at 12 noon. If you have your Twitter account or you deactivated it, reactivate it so that we can quantify the loss. If we could get millions of people to delete simultaneously, anyone who's on Blue Sky to get rid of your accounts, do it. But if you're like a big ticket guy like myself, they could seize your handle if you leave it. We want people to stop using it, right? Yep. I will block all comments. I will just stop using Twitter.
Well, that was my only problem, Malcolm, to be honest with you, is I always planned that I was going to lock it down. I was going to stop using it. I was going to, and that would be it. My only concern was, I'm not saying I had the followers you had, but I have enough of a public profile as somebody who is, an author and and all of that kind of stuff. I don't want someone stealing grabbing my identity there and doing that. So
don't delete. Guys like you don't delete. You guys just stop engaging. The anger algorithm there is based on your engagement, having fights with other people.
Oh yeah, I haven't been doing that for a while.
Stop engaging, you can keep your handle, but it's the equivalent of you walking away.
Right. I'll keep my handle and I'll even, put on the lock and lock it down. I don't care. And then there'll be almost zero engagement.
It'll drive them nuts.
Right. I'm not looking for engagement. I just don't want anybody squatting with my name and my,
Yeah. And that's fine. You can do that, but the algorithm will still see it as zero, right?
Cool.
Waterfall to nothing. So the third thing that we recommend is that there are alternative methods of protest to actually getting out there. One of them includes getting out there. One is that you can actually apply for your tickets right now to attend the inauguration by writing to your congressman. I believe there's a link, inauguration.org or something like that you can go to and request tickets. Request them. Request 2 per person. That's the limit. And don't show up.
Okay. I think that's a brilliant one too. And what's great about all of this is actually YouTube's the main place I go, and Twitch I'm at, whatever. But this is streaming on Twitter right now, so they can know good. They'll know what we have planned, what we have coming.
Like I care. What are you gonna do?
No,
get me off Twitter and push me to Blue Sky.
I was gonna say, I wasn't even saying that I saying just the opposite. I want them to know. I'm glad it's streaming on there. Let those sons of bitches know what we're gonna do. It took me 10 years to get to 1 million followers on Twitter, and I reached 200,000 on Blue Sky in less than 3 weeks. There you go. Right. I mean, again, I just, and I've been concentrating here. I hit 101,000, and then I got 2,600 bots purged. So I felt, which again, I'm glad they did it. It's just sort of like, why did you wait till I broke 100,000? You guys make a big deal of that. You send out the nice little plaque and all that. So it's like you waited till I got past there. But last I looked, I haven't looked this whole time. Hal Sparks, I was on with yesterday, was like, everybody go follow, subscribe. And I'd gotten back up to within 40 of 100,000. So I have a good feeling I'm probably past it. So I've been concentrating on this, Blue Sky a little bit less, but Twitter, the only thing I've been doing is streaming there to piss them off. So I'll probably just, lock that down and end that on the 20th. That's helpful. Yeah, and people have been begging me on this, do spaces and everything. Nope, not engaging the anger algorithm. And the final alternative one we had was National Imperial March Day is what I call it, which is at some point, or if we could get a nucleus of several thousand people to come to the parade route with kazoos, as the parade comes across, they will play the Imperial March from Star Wars badly to show, the Orange Vader exactly what we think of him, which is you're a joke. And this should be the only form of physical protest. The best part is anyone out there who can hear our voice can do it and upload your video on TikTok, Facebook,
or Blue Sky and show us you playing your kazoo, playing
I
the
think that's what
Imperial
I'm going to
March
do.
medley.
Right, I'm going to black out. I'm going to do a media blackout. Twitter easy, and then I'll walk around with my kazoo, and then maybe I'll wait the 100 hours, or I'll do it. The only thing I'll do is do that during it, and
Yep.
I'll do some fun kazooing. That sounds like I can do that.
Yeah, you could actually organize an entire Twitter, or Zoom of 10,000 people.
Well, I can
Where
organize
everybody,
that. Absolutely. I've been talking to folks who are kind enough to be, we've had up to 20 something thousand in this room, which has been amazing for the chat. And there's a whole good bunch of them who are either from Cincinnati or Columbus or from Northern Kentucky, or maybe we can all meet in Cincinnati and go for a nice little march. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But as you said before, what made my living in, for the most part, understanding media. What I always try to teach Democrats who just seem to have so much of a harder time getting it, and I'm talking about electeds, spectacle, right? Big things. That is what gets media attention. A blackout where, as you said, the numbers are quantifiable, that becomes a story. A bunch of people marching, playing the Imperial March on a kazoo across the country at the same time, that becomes a story. Like, this is, again, you got to think about the way our media thinks, and it's no longer in the mature way we wish they would think to concentrate on policy. You've got to get their attention with stuff like this.
It's been said that Republicans speak in shouting headlines and Democrats speak in fine print. Yes. And it's time for us to start speaking in shouty headlines and to take first off, Trump wants the entire world's focus on him, not involved. People come up to me if they say, hey, did you see the inauguration? I'll say, no, I didn't see anything for 100 hours. I am not going to watch advertisers that support this. I will not watch channels that support this. I don't want to see the analysis of something that I reject and that I don't agree with.
And I'm not going to watch Jeff Bezos licking his shoes and Tim Cook patting him on the ass. And I don't need to watch our billionaire class. There are some good folks like Mark Cuban, but most of the billionaire oligarch class, the ones that are all joining his cabinet, because obviously having worked for the WWE is perfect for Secretary of Education, as you know. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who are going to be there fluffing him. So don't give them what they want.
Yeah, well, it's a joke, a dangerous joke regime. And as I like to describe it, Trump is a drunk monkey with an AK-47.
He really is.
It's all amusing till he pulls the trigger.
Yep.
And then we'll see. So, but we as people who don't view this, look, I didn't vote for him, so he's not my president. The time of back a president, no matter what, is over in America. Because to do that, you must be someone who believes in the Constitution, who will defend the Constitution, who will protect the Constitution. This man doesn't know what it is. It's a word that he uses from time to time, but it is about him. He is Mad King Donald. That's how I like to refer to him. He's no different than George III, as far as I'm concerned. And the MAGA red hats are nothing but the red coats to me. I'm a Philadelphian.
I mean, look, he's directly assaulted the Constitution a number of times. He's only going to get worse. Of course. So I'm like you. Listen, I was pretty young at the time. I couldn't have voted even in that election, but I was a little bit too young to vote in the Caucus George H.W. Bush election, to pick one example out. But George H.W. Bush won, and I considered him the president of the United States. I considered him my president. I had a lot more trouble with accepting George W. Bush, with torture and some of the other things that went on. But when it comes to this, no, he's not my president. No. I'm sorry. No. You don't get to commit insurrection and attack the very system that we have and then have me accept, no matter how you become president, that you're my president. So I love what you've come up with. I mean, it should be a pact, but I also think it should just be a saying. It should just be nope. I think to me, that's the perfect, as a messaging guy. I love it. Is he your president? Nope. Are you going to do anything? Do you believe you should do anything to support him? Nope. It's always nope, which is what I'm going to run with that one.
Well, let's get that super PAC going. Another thing, the reason I mentioned that it's a PAC, we do not support each other as Democrats, progressives, conservative never Trumpers.
Yep.
And we allow people on, to do things on their own initiative, like the Lincoln Project, phenomenally powerful organization. The
Right.
Lincoln Project was phenomenally powerful on cyberspace, not in real space. They
You're right.
didn't have advertisements that were showing in Des Moines. Not at all. They didn't, they could put out an awesome video, but no one would broadcast these things. We have to get to the point where our message needs to show up, in the Cracker Barrel, or
You're
at
right.
the
When you go
the
into the
Chick-fil-A.
gym, as somebody who's in Ohio, and again, Cincinnati is a pretty liberal city, so we're an exception, a blue dot. But even I go 20 minutes, in a certain direction here, and anywhere you go into a bar, Fox News is on. You go into a gym, Fox News is on. You go into our airport here, it's almost always Fox News. I mean, that stuff is the kind of stuff that we have to change.
Yep.
And part of
And
that
we
is
got to
by
complain about it.
culturally, yeah, complaining about it, but culturally changing by talking to people, by being loud, by creating our own channels. Again, I only started taking this channel, what I would say, consider, seriously, maybe 6 months ago, where I started really putting up content every day. Before that, once a week, twice a week, whatever. And I'm at 100,000. So, I'm so glad that folks here have supported me. You're supporting me by coming on here with your big following. Hopefully, I'm helping you get your message out about the inauguration to people. We should be supporting each other if in the end we care about winning this thing. If it's all just about, adulation and money, then fine. Everybody just support themselves and do their own thing. But if it's actually about caring about the country you're from and being embarrassed that we could have elected this thing again, that I won't even call a human, and that Elon Musk, this zero EQ lawn chair personality loser, exerts the kind of power that he does, and Mike Johnson, who, when he's not busy, monitoring his son's adult entertainment viewing, is out there losing votes. I mean, this group of losers, my God. I mean, as I said, I don't believe in bullying in general, but I'd love to go back to high school and stuff them all into lockers. They're tools.
Don't
And
worry. They're
we should,
metaphorically being stuffed into lockers right now.
yeah. Well, let's keep it going.
All right. Well, that's what I have to say. I agree that we need to create our own new information ecosphere, and some people need to understand that we have to learn the lessons of the failure of the Women's March in 2017, which was they massed all this power. They got the pink pussy hat to be famous, and the minute that march ended, infighting started. Everyone wanted to get their own donor to give them their money.
That's
and it's like, no, we need to create a national resistance organization who, unlike Indivisible, which was a great idea at the beginning, you don't just say, okay, I've got a PDF of 20 points or 10 or 15 points, and go do your own thing and never hear from us again. You have to actually create an organization that is not the Democratic Party.
I agree.
Is wholly independent of it, that will help push the Democratic Party to do the right thing by, like, not bending at the knee or not accepting this, or to force congressmen not to come to the inauguration.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think that organization is going to be called Nope. And I think we're talking to people here. I mean, I think it's great. And we're going to share everywhere where people can find you up here. Thank you, Jim, our moderator, our head moderator, for doing that. And I will have you on for periodic updates to keep the crowd, knowing what you're doing. I'm sure they'll be reading you more and listening to you more if they don't already. But I'm going to be checking in with you as I do privately, Malcolm, so that I can have my texts read back to me in Russian, because I always that's still one of the initially creepiest and then funniest moments of my life, that I'm like, well, I speak French. Why is Malcolm doing this in Russian? I'm going to go in and I'm going to write back to him in French just to screw with him. And I go in because I've been dictating it. And I go in and I see, holy crap, he didn't say that in Russian. That was just read to me in Russian. And I'm like, oh, our friends are listening.
Yeah, there's a watch section that has duty on Malcolm Nance. So, don't use text. For that purpose.
Well, Signal is how I will be contacting you. That will be the plan. And I'll be talking, because what we can do leading up to it on Blue Sky, here on my channel, other channels, I think are your Substack are all conversations that we should have. So
We should.
I will be in touch. You're still one of my heroes again. I mean, if you hadn't been out there speaking as strongly, again, I think people will never understand what side, having sympathy for Gazan children, having sympathy for Palestinian children is something I have more than the 30% of Muslims, by the way, who voted for Trump. Not the 70% who did the right thing, but the 30%. And yet people will never get, unless they are Jewish, and I'm not religious at all, and I'm not even that ethnically Jewish at all, but when you see people saying things that echo history where bad things have happened to your family, having people that are outside of your sphere who are not Jewish speaking out and calling out anti-Semitism is a pretty important and powerful thing. So I can never thank you enough for that, because you had a large account, a large voice, and you spoke for people like me. So thank you.
Doing what's right never hurts.
I'm going to go with that. I like that. You take care. If Merry Christmas. I think you said you're a Catholic, so you're a Christmas kind of guy. We do both. So we're, Merry Christmaka, I guess you could say to us.
Christmahana Kwanzaa.
That's right. Kwanzaa in there too. I should have thrown that out. I should not forget that.
And don't forget to send people to see the wicked version of the description of Hanukkah. It's brilliant.
Where is this? I want to do that.
It's on Twitter. It's a musical number called Wicked Explains Hanukkah, and it's brilliant.
Oh my God. Well, then I have to see it. Okay. I appreciate it. You take care, buddy.
All right. Take care, Cliff.
All right, folks. The one and only Malcolm Nance. And yes, I know there was some disagreement in here and people debating aspects of what he was saying. But the thing about Malcolm that I like is with the military and intelligence background, he's always given this from an intelligence perspective. And it doesn't take away from innocent lives lost. And it doesn't mean, again, I'll let Malcolm speak for himself. I speak for me and say what I think about Netanyahu and the far right in Israel and lives lost. And I don't differentiate, be they Armenian, Palestinian, Jewish, whatever. But I do take serious offense that even before anything had been done, some of the initial comments coming out were just like, well, Zionist Jews shouldn't even be there anyhow. And we can debate that some other time about artifacts found and things of that nature. And I don't even want to get into that. And partitions accepted by some sides and not others. But you know what? Doesn't much matter. Innocent people should never be tortured, raped, murdered, and none of that should happen. None of what happened in Gaza should have had to happen, should have happened. Okay? That was by design by Hamas. And so, we can, if you disagree, we can agree to disagree, unless obviously you're a blatant anti-Semite, in which case we can agree to just never talk again. That's how we would handle that. Anybody have any positive thoughts they want to offer going into the Christmas and the Hanukkah? I don't know if she never said that. The Kwanzaa. I almost was laughing too hard to say that. Anybody doing anything exciting? Anybody avoiding MAGA relatives? Anybody anything interesting you want to say? Go for it. That will probably have a couple of, there you go, Paul Young, civilly disagree. There you go. You can do that. You know what? We civilly disagree on a bunch of things as Democrats. And if we can't do that, that's why I've tried to have hard conversations here. And I don't think everybody's always agreed with me on things, and you shouldn't. Because what our coalition should be is from leftists on over to never Trumpers. There are some issues we're going to disagree on. Unless to me, it's the basic humanity of people, be they Palestinian or Jewish, be they gay or straight, be they black or white, and on and on and on. That is not a disagreement we will ever discuss. And those are people that won't be allowed here. But beyond that, yeah, we can argue over ideal tax rates. Yeah, we can argue over certain key foreign policy decisions. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Sheldon Hughes, thank you for the $5 super chat. coming in before the deadline, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I do the same. I hope you guys all. Jim Williams still has the Christmas wish for Merrick Garland to be fired. I am with you. You may have, I've said before, seen my fun and back and forth argument with Marcy Wheeler about that on who I consider to be incredibly wrong about Merrick Garland, particularly in an understanding of his PR role as a leader. But we won't get into that fight right now either. Thank you for all the people. Lisa Lopez, great hearing from Malcolm, whatever. A lot of people have said that. I've been really, I've really enjoyed, I'll be thankful, say I'm thankful for something. All of you who've allowed me to do this, all of you who have responded when I've asked for super chats and super stickers, who've become members, understand what we're doing here. We're building something. It's sort of what Malcolm talked about. Michael McAndrews, thank you so much. Festivus for the rest of us. That's a good thing. But who have understood what we're doing. I mean, I'm doing this because I always sort of naturally enjoyed broadcasting, and something I did was a talent, I suppose, something that I was going to go into potentially, except for our cable news is terrible. Sorry, I did that by mistake. Benny Loco, making funeral arrangements isn't a bad idea. Yipes. That's dark. But I couldn't do this if you guys weren't here supporting me. I couldn't do this if you aren't watching. I couldn't do this if you weren't super stickering, chatting it, and becoming members. And because again, that was the phase one was just getting this thing going the last couple of months. Phase two is where we really up the streams, hopefully to a larger number of folks. We get the Patreon and YouTube membership sorted out perfectly. We get the merch game up and on YouTube because you're over 100,000. We actually let you put it on YouTube. We get our Twitch going, which we're going to work on. Hal Sparks, in fact, is going to do what Tony does. Right now, the only day we overlap, I believe, is Wednesday, where he can do a Twitch raid and send his folks over from his live stream, which ends at 2 when mine begins. So I may have a conversation with some of you because he's on Monday and Wednesday, Wednesday, Friday. If I may change one of the days I do this, I don't know, or add another day, depending if I think I can handle that. It's a lot, but because then Hal could throw folks this way 2 days. But there are plans. Again, this has to be a channel. This has to be a network, organization, whatever you want to call it, of all of us able to get a voice out, able to get a message out. And with how quickly we got to 100,000, or maybe just slightly shy due to bot erasure, I think we can get to 200, 300 and become a real force and affect the conversation and affect how the authoritarians who are taking our government over, what they get away with, what they don't, and how much more difficult we make life for them. And that's always been one of the goals here. And to push Democrats to be tougher, because some of the statements about pardons and this other crap lately has had me in a bad mood. And I think there are a number of younger, more aggressive, like the video I did on Chris Murphy and Maxwell Frost. It came from one of these live streams. Like, that's the way. And there are a lot more of them out there, and we need to get them more press. And the wimps who tend to, be of an older generation need to be sort of led the way out. So those that are willing to fight will be there. Because to talk of pardons and talk of Elon Musk like he's some genius and not, some guy with a common sense of a lawn chair really pisses me off when I see Democrats doing that. It angers me more. I put a lot of time into fighting for these causes, that party, which I am a member of. Okay, I didn't mean to get off on all of that. But you guys, you've made this possible. So let's keep this growing. Let's keep it going. And that may be the end. Anybody have one? I don't have to Jerry Maguire it, but I like to leave on a positive note. One membership. Come on, give me a membership. Give me one super sticker, one super chat. A positive way to leave. A way I can stand up tall and be proud. Cliff, who are you going to? Hal Sparks is going to send. Who am I going to raid? Like, where am I going to send my folks? I don't know. If there's somebody who comes on right after me, I'd do it. I'm not aware of that person. But if they make themselves aware to me and it's the kind of thing that you guys would like, why, sure. So, yeah. Well, you know, I saw what you just said, Benny, about you've been fighting for 10 years and it falls on deaf ears. I've been doing it 25, and we've made a lot of gains along the way. I mean, I never thought I'd see marriage equality in my lifetime, you know, to pick one. But we've also lost some things along the way, a lot, to where we are now. I may do my next rant on the things that can be done that are in the Constitution that are perfectly legal, that because of stupid traditions, I've mentioned them before, and stupid sort of kowtowing to congeniality with a party that tried to overthrow our government, that Democrats have refused to do. And I don't care who we're talking about here, because there may be people I like a lot, but have been unwilling to do. And I'm going to throw it all out there about what we have to do. So, does anybody have anything else? Come on. Even a 99-cent super sticker. Even that would be the note of all notes to leave on. Anybody got that? Anybody can do it? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Is this goldfish coming with me? You know, guys, I could get up and start really acting it out, but I'm not going to do that. Many of you are kind enough you're all kind enough to be here. Many of you are kind enough to give me super chats, stickers, and memberships already. So if there's not one more among you who can toss a 99-cent sticker my way, you know what? We're okay. You guys rock. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yeah, see, there you go. Jesse James gets it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. There we go. Vicky Scott became a new YouTube member, and then Sheldon Hughes jumps in. This always ends up happening with a $2 super sticker, and then of course we get JM Vandy. My gosh, you guys, with a $5. It's like it's feast or famine here. You were all excellent. I so appreciate it. And one of the things I'm also working on is we'll have a list of names of people who've given and all that, and our members that we can sort of have flow down the screen at the end, so people can see that. You guys are terrific. Thank you, moderators. Jim, you're fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'm going to go over and off to Christmas Eve. So, as the sun sets slowly in the west, folks, I bid you a fond farewell.